Now we're gonna move on to my number 4 Fallout 3 quest. I have the Superhuman Gambit.
Ooh, I have that one on my list. I don't want to tell you where it's at yet, but I do have it on my list.
You're not gonna tell me where it's at. Just tell me where
No,
it's at.
not gonna tell you. I'm not gonna tell you what ranking it
All
is
right.
yet.
You
I'm gonna
tell me
keep
when
it a
we get to it.
secret.
Okay. All right, then this is a good one to talk about. Superhuman Gambit. A lot of people think this quest is overly goofy, and I think a lot of people say that about the entire game, and this exemplifies it.
Yeah.
It's a fun quest, and I think it does handle the themes of Fallout well. I think it follows, war never changes. The fact that fighting and war comes from the need to survive and the need for safety
Yeah.
and stuff. And I think we see that in both the antagonizer and the mechanist. Although it's extremely, it's a goofy version of that. And
Yeah.
just if you don't know, we have the small town of Canterbury Commons has these two. This antagonizer is what she's called. It's a woman dressed like a supervillain, dressed like an ant, that is controlling these ants to attack their town. And she isn't even really that big of an issue. Like, they're not even bothered by her attacks, really. But then, what is it? That dude, this mechanic, gets his favorite robot destroyed by one of her ants.
Yeah.
And so he swears revenge and makes a costume. And I think the overall story is pretty good. And I like the idea of the fact that like they didn't care until he started fighting her.
Yeah. I think it does a good job at making a kind of like an analogy for what's the word that I'm looking for? Practically like both sides just keep building up more and more. At first she's not even a problem. Then he comes in with robots that are even more destructive, and it makes it an even bigger problem. It's kind of like how it kind of reminds me of almost Cold War
Right.
type things. Like both sides start
Yeah, yeah.
building up their arsenal more and more, and it's only becoming a problem for everyone else.
And yeah, even like, maybe we're giving Bethesda a little bit of credit here, a little bit too much credit here, but even looking at like, like how the U.S. Goes into the Middle East to, stop these terrorists and help these governments.
Yeah, and ends up destroying
Yeah.
ton of civilian property, even though like the overall goal to stop terrorists
It's a good
may
goal.
be a good goal, yeah, but in the end still does more damage to the
Yeah.
country. It's just like the Mechanist has a good goal, but destroys the town even more than the Antagonizer was.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that actually is a really, really good comparison there, but I really like how the quest has a lot of choices in the way you get things done. Yeah, like I accidentally walked over the antagonizer's secret hatch on accident completely and found it. And then because I knew where that was at, I easily got to her and found her for that quest.
Both of their places aren't very far from
Yeah.
Canterbury Commons, the town. They're just like right outside each opposite ends of town.
That's actually how I found the town. Is I was walking, I just stepped on her trap door, and then was just like, "Oh, that must be the town where they're fighting."
And there's just a lot of fun to be had in the
Yeah,
in the whole thing. And like you said, there's a lot of choice. You can So with the antagonizer, you can either take her out or convince her to leave. And then there's multiple ways to convince her to leave. Like I used Lady Killer perk, where you can also use a speech check and the information. You can get information from a guy in town about her past, which you can then talk to her about.
huh.
I ended up, using the Lady Killer perk to get her to. Okay, so we basically just flirted her out of it, it was a big goofy.
Yeah, but I do like that they have that perk there because that does increase a lot of choice within Quest. But it would be,
Absolutely.
it might have been a little bit better if there was at least a little bit of skill check, maybe a lesser skill check if you have that perk or something, because having that perk can make certain speech checks a little overpowered. You can just walk through a ton of things as long
Yeah,
as the female sex, you're good.
yeah. We'll talk more broadly about the specifics of that perk and a lot of the other perks in our review. Check it out next week on the Bravosity. But yeah, just great quest. We see with the Mechanist, there's a lot more. There's a lot of choice in that too. It's basically the same thing. You can convince him to. You convince him he's doing wrong. You can convince him to leave, even if he still wants to be a superhero. You can convince him to leave. You can just, if you get one of them to leave, you don't have to get the other one to leave, but you can still go and deal with the other one. Just a lot of different ways you can complete that quest.
Yeah. What'd you do about the Mechanist?
I don't think I could convince him to, because I got the antagonizer to leave first, and then I don't think I ended up convincing him to regularly leave. So I basically just told him that he needs to take his super. He needs to go save the rest of the world because I saved Canterbury Commons.
Huh. That is very interesting. I didn't know you
And I
could
lost
do that.
karma.
You lost karma by convincing him to
Yeah.
help other parts of the world?
I guess he's just gonna go cause more issues or get himself killed was the idea.
Yeah.
But shows some limitations of the karma system. But again, we'll talk about that in our actual review.
I was able to convince him that he's making the town too dangerous for the little kid in the town, and then he felt bad and gave me his super suit. I convinced both of them to back down.
Me when I'm walking into either of their lairs. Where's my super suit? What I'm here for. That's all I'm here for.
Yeah, that's practically how it was. I got both of their super suits.
I only got the one, the antagonizers.
But see, that is a lot more choice than I even thought. I didn't know that there was a whole another way you could convince him to just leave. I thought you could only ever just kill him, convince him to stop, and he gives you the suit, or do the same to the antagonizer, which only results in 4 different choices, but there's a few different choices within the methods there. Yeah,
4 different choices, and then you have the
more
2 paths.
Than most quests. But
there's a lot of choice within that quest. But,
I mean, that leaves it with actually 6 choices, since what you just said. That's a lot.
Right.
That's why I like that quest quite a bit.